Well, hello. This week I was trying to take you on a little trip, but it seems like Canadian smoke has gotten in the way, and I've been in the house most of the week. And the place I was going to take you, we've got three political candidates um, visiting that city today. So my luck, my luck. So I am going to continue on giving you little travel tips, bits by bits, that I think is important. Today we're going to talk about elevation sickness, and it's a real thing other than on airplanes, and other health related matters to help you have a better trip. And I will give you some of my experiences of mistakes that I made. Okay, so we all know on an airplane, a lot of people wear compression socks because the elevation, the altitude you go to does make some people sick. I don't fly because it does. I have flown one major trip and decades ago, and I don't like flying. So a lot of people wear compression socks because of the difference in the altitude at a fast pace. That is true. There's a lot to do with that. Now hear me out. I'm going to tell you the most drastic thing, and then I'll tell you some little smaller trips that you might not think about. So I'm going to put that at the end. Here you see a train, Amtrak, winding slowly. I will tell you the best way not to get altitude sickness of any kind. And number one, what's altitude sickness? We usually think about altitude sickness is maybe having respiratory problems or being nauseous, have headaches, and that's from lack of oxygen. There can also be other things. With me, I get edema, which is swelling of the feet, ankles, and one trip all the way up to my knees. But that's why people who fly a lot usually have compression socks. They're stuck in the seat and they can't move around, and they do change altitude. So what about, and this will go for cars also, but I'm going to stick with Amtrak because I do like Amtrak the best. And Amtrak, that can happen also if you're on the long distance trains, particularly on the long distance trains. Here, this looks like it might be the Southwest Chief. I'm not sure exactly what train this is, but they wind slowly. I went, the worst case I had was when I went out to the desert, went out west to Arizona, and then I went to California on the Southwest Chief from Chicago. I didn't have any problems, and I knew I was going to the desert. I knew to drink a lot of water. I knew to rest my feet and legs, elevate. I knew not to be out in the middle of the day. I knew all that, so I was prepared for it. What I didn't know was I need to drink more water, and the key is to stay hydrated. When you're on the train, the key is to stay hydrated, and I mean super hydrated. For an example, I like to watch through hikers, and they're hikers that go through trails that are maybe thousands or more miles long. On the East Coast, the one we think about the most is the Appalachian Trail. It's a couple thousand miles long, but there's some all over the country, and I enjoy watching the through hikers. So there's a hiker I'm watching. He just finished the Arizona Enchantment Trail, and he was on the Arizona Trail for a while. So he was out in New Mexico area, and the way he stayed hydrated, and granted he was out in the elements 24/7. Most of the time he did go into town and stay in a hotel some days. But he was telling that to hydrate himself, he would drink, when he stopped and got a water source, he would drink about um, something like 3 liters. Yeah, something like 3 liters of water, and then he would haul water with him. And that's an awful lot of water. I think I'm doing well if I have 16 ounces to drink. If I'm drinking about a pint of liquid, I think I'm doing really well. Um, we don't know how quick that creeps up on you, so you have to drink lots and lots of water, not your normal amount. Remember to do that. Also on the train, I would suggest compression socks. I would also suggest walking. That's a good thing about the train as opposed to flying or even being in a car. You can get up at will and walk up and down the cars, and I did that. I didn't do it quite enough. But anyway, I'm telling the ending before the beginning. But when I went out west and I went to Flagstaff, now Flagstaff has an elevation close to Arizona, has an elevation close to 7,000 feet. I used to have a vacation home in the mountains here in North Carolina that's 5,500 feet. Supposed to be the tallest incorporated town east of the Rockies. So I didn't think I was going to have any problems. I did not have problems. The Southwest Chief goes slow. It seems to be the slowest train I've been on. May not be, but it seems to be. It did go slow, and that's the way to keep from getting altitude sickness, is to go slow and increase your altitude gradually, slowly, and not really quick. So that happened. I got to Flagstaff. I was fine. I didn't have edema. I usually get edema on my feet and toes. Not too much in the ankles. It just stays, the swelling stays in my feet. I had done really well. I was not outside after the mid-morning until about sunset. Every day. I was there for 4 days. The only day I didn't do that was my last day there. I went to the Grand Canyon. And my last day there, after I got back from the Grand Canyon, I took an overnight train to LA, Los Angeles, and then I went to San Diego for the weekend. Now their elevation is just a few hundred feet, so I went from 7,000 feet to a few hundred feet in just a few hours. So that's where I got myself in trouble. I noticed in San Diego my feet were swelling, the ankles were swelling. I thought, erroneously, well, I'll just walk it off. So I walked, and it's a beautiful city, particularly by the bay. And I spent the day out there. It did not seem hot. And that's where to get you. I'm from the South here in, now it's called the Mid-Atlantic. In the States, we have humidity. I understand when I'm getting too hot because of the humidity. Out there, it wasn't so much the humidity. I felt good. I didn't drink enough water. So make a long story short about that, at the end of the weekend, when I was waiting for the train in Los Angeles to take me back to Chicago, my fluid filled up in both of my legs up to my knees. I figured I probably need to go to a doctor, but I didn't know where to go and kind of afraid to go. Didn't want to miss the train. Once I got on the train, it took about a day and a half for it to all go. There were some women I met, and they were trying to help me. They said drink water. I hadn't drunk enough water. I was drinking water, but not enough water for the conditions. So that did happen. It took about a day and a half of me walking the train almost constantly during the day and drinking water until I felt like I was going to float. And finally it all worked out to where by the time I got home a couple of days later, my feet were swollen just to the ankles. And then it went down. It took a week or two for it to all go down. And then when it all went down, I realized I had broken my toe. I had my My picture went out there. I had broken my toe walking so much. But anyway, so be very careful. It is real. Um, Also, the same thing, something similar happened when I went down my first solo trip. On the train was overnight down to Orlando, and I just walked around town there. That was in the middle of the summertime. It was a little hot, but it didn't feel like it was that hot until I started getting very lightheaded. And I ended up in the train station lying down for 3 hours. I realized that I had not drunk enough. I looked in my backpack to get some trail mix out. The M&Ms had melted that were in my trail mix. Never knew M&Ms could melt. Excuse me. Never knew M&Ms could melt because the commercials back when I was a kid on TV said, can hold them in your hand, they don't melt. So that's why I packed in my trail mix M&Ms. They do melt. They can. That was hot. So that was another time that I did not have enough fluids, and that what I got really lightheaded. You lie down, drink water, and drink water. Now I carry some power drink mix with me to get my electrolytes back. But be careful with that. It is real. You can get nauseous. If you do feel like you are getting nauseous or a little bit lightheaded, remember to drink. Remember on the train or wherever you are, walk. Keep moving. Keep your feet elevated. There's a place on each seat on the train to keep your feet elevated. I would suggest compression socks, just like a lot of people do for airplanes. Wear those. I've yet to do that, to get compression socks. But it can happen. It frequently does happen. I'm wondering if it happens more often the older you get. Maybe the older you get, the less we're able to acclimate so quickly. But yeah, this is just some things I wanted to put out there. Elevation sickness is a real thing. It is a real thing on trains also. Just remember the three main things. Drink plenty of fluids, which will be either electrolyte drink or water. That's it, of what I would drink. Move around a lot. Every few hours, move around, walk from car to car, not just up and down. If you're not able to walk far, go up and down your car. But it's fun to walk one length of the train to the other. And the third thing is compression socks, and keep your feet elevated when you are sitting. So I hope this helps. I don't want people to get sick or get discouraged about traveling on the train, saying, well, I didn't feel that well. Oh, and another thing I want to tell you, if you're on a long distance train, it doesn't happen so much when you're just riding for a few hours, but or shorter. But if you're on a long distance train, be prepared when you get off the train that you're going to have kind of sea legs, so to speak. When I go on my trips, or went on my trips, and they were 2-week-long trips, it took me a week after I got back before whenever I went to lie down to go to bed, I didn't still rock. You will get used to, the train does rock, but train doesn't rock a lot, but it does move. So your body has to acclimate to it moving when you get off the train, if you ride long distances for long periods of time. That's what I want to say. Another thing a lot of people do for the altitude part, and just to make it more enjoyable, a lot of people on the cross-country trips, they get off and break it up. They'll stop at least one time, like halfway. They may ride one train that goes through Denver. Denver's a popular place to stop. They'll get off at Denver for a couple of days, and then they get back on. That's another way of taking it slower. of letting your body adjust. I've never done that. I wanted to go the cheap way and just went to my destination and back. Now that I'm several years older and I don't have to travel quite as cheaply, I think I may start doing that if I ever decide to go on a long trip, is to break it up. That's another idea. So this is longer than I wanted it to be. If you've got any other tips, let me know in the comments below. I don't want to deter this from you traveling. This is just ways to make your life a lot more comfortable on a train. It's a whole lot of fun. Comment below, like, subscribe, share this with people who you know may be traveling, may benefit from any of these videos. Check out the other videos I have, and stay safe and happy rails.